Hey, hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I'm back with the Geneva Bible, the Founders Bible, the Puritans Bible, Shakespeare's Bible, Anne Hutchinson's Bible, the Bible that preceded the King James Version, uh, translating faithfully from the Hebrew, and the translation done by a group of really religious martyrs or dissidents who had fled England, where they would be killed for doing this work, and had gathered in Geneva. They were part of the Protestant Reformation. And as always, we compare the Revised Standard Version to the Geneva Bible after we read the Geneva Bible, and then we look at the Hebrew and see what did it really say. And that way we look at how the meanings have evolved or changed over time, moving continually away from the Hebrew. And let me know if you can hear me or see me, hear me and see me. Oh, good. People are greeting us from all over the world. And I will just acknowledge this is an incredibly sad chapter I'm about to read. It's Exodus 33. And those of you who've been following along with this reading know that the relationship between Yahweh and the children of Israel was broken in a way in the last chapter, the way that an adultery or some horrible betrayal breaks a love relationship or a marriage, or a betrayal breaks a friendship. Yahweh, Moses was barely away from the children of Israel. I mean, it doesn't specify the time, but not that long. And the children of Israel could not manage to just trust, be faithful, be confident, and wait for Yahweh, the being who had taken them out of slavery in Egypt, who had fed them manna, who had performed miracle after miracle for them, who had parted the Red Sea. They couldn't do it. And you remember that I mentioned that this is a foreshadowing, or what is foreshadowing, right? Or for a kind of a foretelling, or an echo forward into time of that scene where Yeshua is about to be handed over to his captors, and he says to his disciples, "You couldn't stay up and wait with me one night," or words to that effect. So the children of Israel really blew it. They really deeply disappointed Yahweh. They couldn't wait. They couldn't restrain themselves. They weren't mature. And they, like, the minute they didn't know what happened to Moses, they bailed on the whole project with Yahweh, essentially, and took their earrings, their golden earrings, and melted them down under Aaron's problematic leadership. The priest, the brother of Moshe, boiled them down, melted them down to create a golden calf. And this is the kind of thing, cattle and cats and animals were worshipped by around them, right? By the tribes around them, certainly to the north, the tribes where they came from, the whole kingdom of Egypt was one great big, idolatrous mess, basically. I mean, you've seen mummies and exhibits from Egypt at around the time the children of Israel were enslaved. And there is, by the way, some archaeological evidence that a group called, I think, Ibiru or Habiru were enslaved or were workers in Egypt. And you see worship of cats, worship of, animal-headed creatures, worship of planets, worship of pharaohs, right? You see idolatry of all kinds. And remember that around the children of Israel at this time, and the surrounding tribes that we've heard in the story earlier, people trade, the children of Israel trade with the surrounding tribes, or they make war against them. There are conflicts, or they marry. They sometimes take a wife from the surrounding tribes, as Moshe did. For instance, Tzipporah, his wife. They would know about the idolatrous practices, And how would they know that it wasn't better, right? I'm just saying that, like, theoretically, this is an early relationship with Yahweh. They wouldn't know that this is actually the God in the highest, Lord of hosts. They wouldn't know that yet. I'm not justifying it, but monotheism for worshiping something you cannot see is a really big leap for human beings at that time. Who were so conditioned. The whole reality was multiple gods, household gods. You sacrifice to them. You go and kill your child for Baal, or you kill your calf. And you just worship these graven images. That was the world that the children of Israel inhabited, that they knew. So here's this gigantic kind of leap of faith, almost literally, where Yahweh is saying, you can't really see me. You can see my angels from time to time. You can see this pillar of fire. You can see this pillar of cloud, but you really can't see me. Apparently it's overwhelming if humans see Yahweh, because Yahweh is very concerned throughout these chapters that he not inadvertently kill people with his overwhelming presence, right? There's lots of technologies and rituals to keep people from being from dying of whatever, the presence of God, which is so overwhelming. But it's a giant leap to leave these people in the desert, uh, it, in the desert, right? Meaning they can't grow their own food. They can't rely on their own, on grass for the goats and grass for the sheep. And Yahweh is saying, trust me, just trust me. I'll provide food. I'll provide water. I'll get you to the promised land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. I'm not saying the children of Israel did right, but given how new the concept of one God that you can't see, who's gonna, who is everything, that was a brand new concept, right? And Moshe is clearly struggling. I mean, this is also a really interesting set of narratives when it comes to Moshe's relationship to the children of Israel about leadership, right? Because Moshe had the impossible leadership task of herding these cats, right? Of persuading these people who depend on him, who trust him, to have faith in something they cannot see. What if Moshe is delusional? What if we all die of hunger and thirst in the desert? What if our children die? And again, Moshe would, it would be very hard to lead people into such an unknown situation, right? And they would have to have incredible confidence in Moshe, like metaphysical confidence, because there would have been nothing in their experience as human beings to persuade them that he was not delusional. So this is what happened. It's so sad. You remember in the last chapter, Yahweh is very, very distraught that the children of Israel have so quickly tanked the whole relationship, and they're worshiping this golden calf. And Moshe came down the mountain and was irate, broke the 10 Commandments, the book of God, repeated multiple times. This is God's book. God wrote it. God wrote it with his finger. And Moshe, in a rage, compelled the children of Israel to drink the ground to powder gold that had been the golden calf. And he also was given instruction by Yahweh to kind of ask, who is with me? Who is going to go forward with Yahweh? And the Levites stepped forward. That's one tribe, and joined with Moshe, joined with Yahweh. And then God gave Moshe the instruction through these swordsmen, basically these warriors, to kill, to kill all the idolaters. And they did, they obeyed, and that's what happened. And this is like hard to process, because we don't live in a time like that, in which it's not an act of a psychopath to kill off your friends and neighbors who worship differently than you. But at the same time, it also, for this story, we can't reason backward, right? We have to situate ourselves in that time and place for the the requirements of this story, which is God actually needs, for reasons that are kind of not that clear. Like, why does God need humans so much? That's the big question of this story so far, right? This being who could do anything seems to really need and want a relationship with human beings. God doesn't explain why. It would be really awesome. Maybe later he'll explain why. So far, he hasn't explained why, except that he wants a family. He wants a community of humans, and he wants a community of humans who want to be with him and who want to be with him in a holy way because he's holy. So he wants people to marry him, basically, to be close to him in a way that allows them to be close to him, to sanctify themselves. And we talked about that. So it's incredibly sad. And, at the end, so for the demands of this story, which is Yahweh needs to move forward in time and in geographically north to Canaan, what is now Canaan, to the Holy Land. And he needs to do it with people who are aligned with him and who will fight for him and who are committed to him. So unfortunately, that involved the massacre of everyone who wasn't, so that this remnant, this small group of people who actually said affirmatively, yes, we're not going to mess up. We want to be aligned in God's army. We want to be with God. We want to be God's family. They're the small group that moves ahead and becomes the ancestors of this people that God keeps explaining. He wants to have I keep saying a model relationship with, and I mean that because I don't think it's exclusive. As you know, I keep saying I don't think it's exclusive. I think he's working out this relationship with the children of Israel so that it'll eventually include everybody, which it does. But that's the last chapter. And just before I begin, I just want to say I think this next chapter is very timely because what we're talking about here is slavery, right? And the children of Israel who did betray God when they didn't know what happened to Moses and who did melt down their jewelry and create a golden calf and worship it, they were free, but they were not free, right? The whole story of Exodus. What is Exodus? It means leaving. And it's not the name of the chapters in Hebrew, but the story is one of leaving slavery, right? That's the centerpiece of the story, learning how to be free, moral people, not in a condition of slavery where you don't have moral choice. If you do have moral choice, you have the ability to, ruin things and destroy things. But what we are asked to think about is, what do you do with your freedom? And I'm just calling up Chabad, Exodus 33, and it's called Shemot, which means names. And these people who worship the golden calf, I said they were free, but they were not free. They were still behaving like slaves. And I mentioned this, and I just have to share this before I go on with my reading. Today's a big day. It's the first day of imprisonment of a political prisoner in the United States, which probably hasn't happened since, God, maybe since the Civil War, to my knowledge, or arguably World War II, the Japanese American internment camps. But, Steve Bannon is in prison in the United States of America. And this is a huge thing. And I won't detour. I'll speak about it directly probably tomorrow, but I want us to recognize where we are before we go into the reading. We're in an America in which critics of an administration can be sentenced to prison. And I say that again as a former political consultant to Democrats who relied on executive privilege. There's a clear double standard here, but look what's happening around the world. Peter Navarro is in prison. Julian Assange was released, but that doesn't mean he's safe. We don't know what's going to happen next to Julian Assange. So many people who fought to bring the truth about the vaccine are dead now. Maybe coincidentally, Dr. Zelenko's dead. Kerry Mullis, I think his name is, who did the PCR test, is dead. There's, Alex Jones got hit with a giant uh, economic lawfare loss penalty that designed to ruin him. People are getting IRS notices. Mark Stein barely recovered from his trip across the Atlantic to be at a grueling hearing at the Royal Court of Justice that is basically aimed at destroying his livelihood, his reputation. One by one, Epoch Times got dragged into some sort of reputational damage. One by one, the last independent media, the last independent commentators are being dragged into lawfare or dragged into prison. And it is a big deal because we have to understand what time it is. I've been saying for a couple of years, well, I've been saying since 2008, the United States can become a fascist society pretty easily. And these are the signs to look for. And I've been warning people about that since my book, The End of America. Well, we're here, right? I mean, we're in the, I can't believe I'm seeing Democrats and liberals and left-wing people cheering the incarceration of Steve Bannon. It's not about whether you agree with Steve Bannon or not, or whether you agree with President Trump or not. If you are living in an America where they lock up political prisoners, people who are critics or opposition leaders or strategists for the opposition, they will lock you up, right? There's no such thing as it happens to them, so it's not going to happen to you. If it happens to them, it can happen to you. And the point we're at which opposition leaders, opposition journalists, opposition commentators, dissident scientists and doctors are ruined or delicensed or debanked like Mercola, or arrested, right? Like all these other things, the debanking, the Canadian truckers being debanked, that's all scary, right? And I warned you all of that points to this. But this, the actual incarceration, right, of a political prisoner, that's not just scary anymore. That's actually a fascist regime. And it actually means that you could be taken, right? We're actually in a post-democratic society now, if and since such things can be done. And the other thing I want to point out before I go into my reading, but it's germane, is who's running the United States of America right now, right? The great free nation, the great beacon of freedom, the equivalent, the modern equivalent of the Holy Land, sitting on a hill. Who's running it? We all saw that our president, which we've known for a couple of years, but I guess the rest of America didn't know, is cognitively impaired, the polite way to say it. And so, again, speaking as someone who has been in those rooms, advised a presidential campaign, advised a vice president, who's making the decisions? This is a really important question. Who's running America right now? We don't know. We can guess, we can speculate. Is it Jill Biden? Is it Ron Klain? Is it, China, through their emissaries? Is it the deep state, right? We don't know, but I can't tell you how scary that is and how dangerous it is, because if they're locking up, if they're weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the judicial system to lock up the opposition, or just to engage in lawfare to break the opposition, right? Or to tie them up, like everyone should be campaigning right now. I say this as a former political consultant. It's high campaign season. President can't do it very well, and one of his chief strategists or advisors can't do it at all. He has been silenced. You didn't hear Steve Bannon's voice today. I don't know what access he has to phones or to computers. I understand that it's limited to none. Computers that allow speech to the outside. He's, very courageously kind of said a very moving historic farewell before surrendering yesterday. But a big voice has been silenced in the United States of America. You guys have to recognize what time it is. I don't care if you like Steve Bannon or not. I don't care if you like President Trump or not. This is like the Stars and Stripes should be flying upside down from the Capitol or the White House, because this is beyond anything that has happened in the United States, certainly in my lifetime, and I think not since the Civil War, right? Has there been such brutal, I don't even know what to call it, tyrannical crackdowns on citizens of this country. So this matters, because if they can silence him, they can silence you. They can silence me. Like the last, dissidents are kind of looking at each other like, okay, what's going to happen next? Do we have enough money for a lawyer? Do we have weapons? Do we have ammunition? I'm talking peacefully. I'm talking, if God forbid, there's an attack on the last remaining dissidents, or if God forbid there's a lawfare, and again, I'm speaking peacefully. If God forbid something is taken out of context, it's a tripwire situation. And that's what the Nazis did. That's what the Nazis did. They did it to the same sets of people who are being picked off one by one. They did it to opposition leaders. They did it to union leaders. They did it to outspoken clergy. They did it to journalists. And they took those people into basements. They beat them up or detained them. 6 months later, the whole civil society had complied with National Socialism. That's how little it takes. And that's where we're at right now. So just don't kid yourself, and if you're on the left, don't gloat, because you are in big trouble. And so is everyone, right? It's not that what happens to these handful of people doesn't affect you. What happens to them is the America you live in. All right, let's move on to the reading. Very germane. It's a short chapter. So, chapter 33 in the Geneva Bible, and the subheadline of the commentary says, the Lord promised to send an angel before his people. They are sad because the Lord denies to go up with them, to go up to the land of Canaan, the Holy Land. Moses talks familiarly with God, and that means in the 16th century, like a family member. He prays for the people and desires to see the glory of the Lord. Afterward, the Lord said unto Moses, depart, go up from hence, from here, you and the people which you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, unto the land which I swore unto Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, saying, unto your seed will I give it. And that means descendants. And I will send an angel before you, and will cast out the Canaanites, the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And the note says, the land of Canaan was compassed with hills. So they that entered into it must pass up by the hills, which is important because it means they have to pass hostile tribes in a vulnerable position in the valleys, vulnerable to the warriors on the hills. To a land, I say, that flows with milk and honey, for I will not go up with you, because you are a stiff-necked people, lest I consume you in the way. So sad. God is saying, it's over. I'm not going to go with you. Like we broke up. You go, good luck to you. You guys go. I won't go with you. And when the people heard this evil tidings news, they sorrowed, and no man put on his best raiment, his best clothing. For the Lord had said to Moses, say unto the children of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. I will come suddenly upon you and consume you. Therefore now put your costly raiment from you, that I may know what to do unto you. And the note says that either may show mercy if you repent, or else punish your rebellion. And Yahweh is definitely in this state of mind. Like, we'll see I haven't decided what I'm going to do. And it's almost like you're in big trouble. It's almost person by person. So the children of Israel laid their good raiment from them after Moses came down from the Mount Horeb. I'm sorry, it's on Horeb. Then Moses took his tabernacle and pitched it outside the host, the camp, the people, far off from the host, and called it Ohel Moed, which means the tent of meeting. And the note says that is the tabernacle of the congregation, so called because the people went thither there when they should be instructed of the Lord's will. And when any did seek to the Lord, he went out unto the tabernacle of the congregation, which was without the host, outside the camp where all the people were. And I just want to call your attention to the fact that you're not taught this. You're not taught that Moses put up a tent, neither was I, where anyone who wanted to meet with God could meet with God, like one-to-one, face-to-face. And when Moses went out unto the tabernacle, all the people rose up and stood every man at his tent door and looked after Moses until he was gone into the tabernacle. And as soon as Moses was entered into the tabernacle, the cloudy pillar descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord talked with Moses. Now, when all the people saw the cloudy pillar stand at the tabernacle door, all the people rose up and worshiped every man in his tent door, because God was there. God was home, right? The cloudy pillar is like, do not disturb. God's here. And everyone stood and worshiped in his tent door. And the Lord spoke unto Moses face to face as a man speaks unto his friend. This just breaks my heart. And the note says, most plainly and familiarly of all others. Just very directly, face to face, as a man speaks unto his friend. After he turned, meaning Moses, again into the host, but his servant, Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, departed not out of the tabernacle. So there was a young kind of priest in training who stayed there even after Moshe left, when he would speak with God. Then Moses said unto the Lord, see, you say unto me, lead this people forth, and you have not shown me whom you will send with me. You have said, moreover, I know you by name, and you have also found grace in my sight. And the note says, I care for you and will preserve you in this your vocation. That's how God is supposed to be feeling about Moses. Now, therefore, I pray you, if I have found favor in your sight, show me now thy way, that I may know thee, and that I may find grace in your sight. Consider also that this nation is thy people, is your people. So Moses is really like begging God to come with them and to not break up with them, basically. Now, and he answered, meaning God answered, my presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest. God is very yielding. When people he cares about ask him for things, he just doesn't stick to his rigid boundaries that he set himself previously. And he loves Moshe, clearly. And so God is saying, my presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest. And the note says, signifying that the Israelites should excel through God's favor all other people. And I'll get to that. And then he said unto him, if your presence go not with us, carry us not hence. Moses keeps saying, like, if you're not going with us, I don't want to go. Let's just die here, because I don't want to go without you. It's very moving. And this is the second time Moses has said, before this conversation, the last chapter, Moses also said, I'd rather be stricken from your book, erased from your book, than lose this relationship and lose your presence among these people. And now again, Moshe, who really is quite an amazing leader, very self-sacrificing, he's again saying to God, I understand why you're so angry. It makes sense. I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry, but please come with us anyway. And we don't want to lose you. And if you're not going to come with us, let's just not leave. We'll just stay here with you. It's so sad. So moving, that I may know you. And he answered, my presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest. Then he said unto him, if your presence go not with us, carry us not hence. And wherein now shall it be known? In what will it be known? Moses is speaking, that I and your people have found favor in your sight. Shall it not be when you go with us? So I and your people shall have preeminence before all the people that are upon the earth. And the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this also that you have said, for you have found grace in my sight, and I know you by name. He's again saying, I'm not inclined to, you guys made some horrible decisions, but he's literally saying, I know you by name. You're my friend. Like, I love you, and I'll do it, because you're asking for it. I'll do it for you. Again, Moses said, I beseech you, show me your glory. And God, answered, I will make all my good go before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. For I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy, and will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. And the note says, when it says, show me your glory, the note says your face, your substance, and your majesty. So Moses, who knows God as a friend, is asking God to show him himself, his face, his substance, his majesty. Like God has a being, that is like material in this story. And Moses is sure of it. God's not just abstract somewhere in the heavens. God has a being, and Moses wants to see him. That's how much he loves him. He wants to see him, even after this painful conversation in which God has said, I'm pretty much almost sick of you guys. And he answered, I will make all my good go before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. And the note says, my mercy and fatherly care. For I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy, and will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Furthermore, he said, meaning God said, you cannot see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. And the note says, for finding nothing in man that can deserve mercy, he will freely save his. Also the Lord said, behold, there is a place by me, and you shall stand upon the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft, kind of a broken area of the rock, and will cover you with my hand while I pass by. And then a note says, for Moses saw not his face in full majesty, but as man's weakness could bear. And that's exactly what I've been saying. All of this, like, wear these bells, lest you die, stand far off, lest you die. It's not the way it's been translated later. Like, God's so awful that going close to him leads him to kill you. That's not it at all. The note is correct, in my view. Man's weakness can't bear the full majesty and glory of being like face to face with God, because we're different, right? There's an element that it overlaps. We're his children, but we're also different. We can't handle it. So God keeps trying to not kill his people by coming too close to him or seeing him too clearly. And this is just again and again mistranslated. Very sad. And so literally God is saying, I will put you and I will cover you with my hand while I pass by. Such a fatherly gesture, almost a maternal gesture. Like if you've got a child and the sun's too bright, if they don't have a hat, you cover their little face, you shade their eyes. It's literally God is doing that. He's like, okay, I will show you myself, but I'm not gonna, I can't do it face to face because you're human, you'll die. I'm gonna cover your face. And then he says, after I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen. And the note says, so much of my glory as in this mortal life you are able to see. So we can't bear to see God face to face, but we can see God departing, right? I mean, this super holy person, Moshe, who's friends with God, right? They have a friendship. He's allowed to see God's back. essentially, as God has already passed by. And by allowed, just to preserve his life so he does not get overwhelmed and die. So that's like a heartbreaking exchange. And interestingly, this chapter, which in my view of all the chapters we've read so far, really reveals, I don't want to say the equality of God and humans, because they're not, I mean, that's a dumb word, excuse me, because they're so different. And obviously God is God, but the intimacy, right? The incredible intimacy, the arguing with God, the begging with God, the God relenting. I mean, it's honestly, it's like someone you love so much, but they're so problematic to be in a relationship with. And you've broken up with that person. You don't want to talk to them. And they're back saying, like, give me one more chance. I don't want to leave here without you. It's so painful, right? But of all the chapters we've read, this is the most clearly stating that anyone can go see God. Anyone can see when God's talking to Moses because there's a pillar outside the tent. Anyone can go talk to God. And also that it is possible for humans to talk to God as a man speaks to his friend, and for God to talk back, and that also it is possible to see God, and that God has a hand. I mean, obviously we don't know if God has a hand. God can have anything, but God is willing to align with humans, or is already aligned with humans, to the extent that he has a hand, he has a form. Maybe that's just in this instance in order to communicate with Moshe, with human beings, but it's a very incredibly close description of what God is to humans, right? Accessible, relatable, and also compassionate and like sympathetic, right? Like you feel for God in these chapters. And literally, I've never, ever, ever read a translation of the Hebrew Bible except the Geneva Bible and the Hebrew itself, in which you feel emotionally sorry for God because of what God is going through with human beings who just won't be nice to him consistently and love him the way he wants to be loved and offers to be loved. But Moshe, for whatever reason, does have a friendship with God. They are friends. They talk as friends. And Moshe basically said a version of what Naomi will say to Ruth in a later book: whither thou goest, I will go. Like, I don't want to leave without you. So really, I just want to read some sentences from the Revised Standard Version, because over and over and over, where there is incredible intimacy in the Geneva Bible and in the Hebrew, the translation is icy. It recasts it as iciness, distance, arbitrariness, judgmentalness. So let's start with line 3. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go up among you, lest I consume you in the way, for you are a stiff-necked people. So in the Revised Standard Version, the sequence of the sentence is reversed, so that God is saying, I'm not going to go with you because I might be tempted to consume you, to destroy you as we go north, in punishment, essentially, for you are a stiff-necked people. That's not what it says. In the Geneva Bible, it says, to a land, I say, that flows with milk and honey, for I will not go up with you, because you are stiff-necked people, lest I consume you in the way. Reversed. So what God is saying in the original is, I won't go up with you because you are a stiff-necked people, and I won't go up with you lest I just destroy you by my presence, because you're not holy enough to be near me without endangering yourselves, because you're a stiff-necked people. Do you get the difference? It's dramatically different. I mean, it almost seems like God is a cannibal in the first, in the Revised Standard Version. And then in line 5, the Lord had said to Moses, Revised Standard Version, say to the people of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go up among you, I would consume you. So now put off your ornaments from you, that I may know what to do with you. Therefore, the people of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Not what it says. Not what it says. Line 5 in the Geneva Bible. For the Lord said to Moses, say unto the children of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. I will come suddenly upon you and consume you. Again, because you're a stiff-necked people, the risk is that I might suddenly appear among you, join you, and it will destroy you because you're not in a state of holiness, and that can kill you. And God is, again, trying to protect them from this in the Geneva Bible, in the original. Therefore now put your costly raiment from you, that I may know what to do unto you. So the children of Israel laid their good raiment from them after Moses came down from the Mount Horeb. And it again, it's a reverse order in the Revised Standard Version that makes God seem very punitive. And then let's go to 7. In Revised Standard, it says, now Moses used to take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. And that's not what it says. What it says is, Moses came down from Mount Horeb where he'd been talking to God, and it says, then Moses took his tabernacle and pitched it outside the host, far off from the host, and called it Ohel Moed. So I'm stressing this, that the Revised Standard Version changes the tense and suggests that Moses did this before the meeting with God, continually, and after the meeting with God, in which God was very upset. In the original, it's only after the meeting of God. God was among the people up until that point, remember, right? And the Revised Standard Version just kind of artificially erases that and makes it seem as if the tent of meeting has always been far away from the inhabitants, the children of Israel, whereas, as you recall from the last chapter, it's right in the midst of them. They get to be there in the midst of them before this fight, basically, between the children of Israel and God. And that's not correct. Let's look at 11 in the Revised Standard Version. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to a friend. And that's not what it says. In the Geneva Bible, it's and the Lord spoke unto Moses face to face as the man speaks unto his friend. So again, it's the Revised Standard Version is inaccurately reading back in time that Moses is privileged in a way that ordinary people are not, and that only Moses gets to speak to God, before, during, after the argument with God that we're reading about here, and that's always been the case. He's always been special and different, and that is not the case in the Hebrew. Everyone could speak to God up until this rift where God's legitimately upset. And then let's look at line 12 in RSV. Moses said to the Lord, see, you say to me, and by the way, in the RSV, they change the way Moses addresses God and they make it archaic. So meaning from another time, grammar from another time. So there's not these and thous in the Revised Standard Version, because we don't say thee and thou anymore. We say you, and instead of thine, we say yours, or your. It's deeply archaic to thee and thou people, unless you're a Quaker. They still do it a little bit. But when Moses speaks to God, there's this weirdly fancy, artificially old-fashioned language. So Moses said to the Lord, see, thou sayest to me, bring up this people, but thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. So I would say, again, this weird decision, which it's not carried throughout, except when someone's actually talking to God, in this case, we'll see if that continues, is cast in this very modern translation as taking place in Elizabethan language. And by the way, all of this is written with thee and thou. I change it to modern usage for your sake, but it's, humans thee and thou each other, people thee and thou their wives, and they thee and thou God. Okay, so there's no separation in how humans speak to each other and how they speak to God. Whereas in this text, there is what I would say is a very artificial choice to create a very artificially fancy, separate, I better not say you and your, that's too familiar. No, in the Revised Standard Version, probably in the Hebrew, which we'll get to, the familiarity is the point, right? Everyone's intimate with God. All right. So in the Revised Standard Version, it says, yet thou hast said, I know you by name. And that's not what it says in line 13. Now, therefore, I pray you, show me thy way that I may know you, and that I may find grace in thy sight. Now, therefore, I pray you. Now, therefore, I pray you, if I found favor in thy sight, show me now thy way. All right. So in the Geneva Bible, it's your way. Show me your way. In the Revised Standard Version, it's ways, like a whole religion. And that's not what it's saying in the Geneva Bible. It's show me the path to be with you, to walk with you, not show me the rituals, show me the religions, the religion that you're creating. And then the last really interesting change is in line 16, in which the Revised Standard Version says, is it not in thy going with us, so that we are distinct, I and thy people, from all other people that are upon the face of the earth? And that's not what it says. It doesn't say distinct. And as a Jew, I'm a little bit uneasy with that choice because Jews are often accused of thinking that they're distinct from all other people. And let's see what it actually says. Shall it not be when thou goest with us, so I and thy people shall have preeminence before all the people that are upon the earth? So in the Geneva Bible, what Moses is saying is, don't not like walk with us, come with us so that we'll be distinct, separate, like an ethnicity from everyone. No, it's walk with us so that everyone will see God walks with us and God is preeminent. So we too will be preeminent, right? That's the sense of that sentence. It's not an ethnic demarcation at all. It's like, don't you want to show our enemies that you, God, are walking with us and we are your people and you are preeminent, and that gives us the eminence of being your people. And then the last thing I promised, which is super weird. I mean, there's a lot of weird mistranslations in my view in this chapter. In the Revised Standard Version, 19 says, and he said, God said, I will make all my goodness pass before you and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But you cannot see my face. All right, well, that's not what it says. In the Geneva Bible, it says, and he answered, I will make all my good go before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. So he doesn't say that his name is the Lord. He's not saying my name is the Lord. He's not saying that. He's saying that they'll tell him what his name. He's saying that he will tell them what his real name is. I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. I will. And it doesn't say what his name is in the original. So he's offering another level of intimacy. I will share what my deepest name is with you. We'll get to know each other even that much better. And so it's just weird that there's this like awkward. I just don't like the personality of God, the way it's mistranslated. It's like, you have to call me Mr. Smith. Even if I'm your uncle, you have to call me Mr. Smith. It's not like that. It's, this person's like awkwardly saying, and you have to call me the Lord, That's not what he's doing. He's saying, I'll share my glory. I'll share it. We'll be super intimate. I'll show you myself. I'll proclaim the name of the Lord, which it doesn't say what it is. God has many names in the Hebrew, but it's definitely about closeness and revelation. And then in the Geneva Bible, it says, for I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy, and will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Revised Standard Version translates that as, I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. So they just write out the compassion altogether. And that word gracious, again, it's like, I don't like it. It's like, Lady Foo and, some castle somewhere being gracious to the lowly, workers in the fields. It's about mercy and compassion in the original, and they just write out the compassion in the translation. And then in the last thing is, in line 20, the Geneva Bible says, furthermore, God says, you cannot see my face. The Revised Standard Version says, but you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. And it's not a but, it's furthermore. It's again, in the original, God is giving people instructions about how to be close to him without dying, right? And in the modern translation, it's distance, but you can't see my face, but you can't see my face. Completely different. And then in the Revised Standard Version, it says, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. And in the original, it says, and while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and will cover you with my hand whilst I pass by. So again, it's you can't see me, and I'll cover your face until I've passed by in the Revised Standard Version. And it's like, I'll protect you by covering your face while I pass by in the Geneva Bible. All right. That's the reading. Let's quickly look at the Hebrew. It's been an arduous day. And let's just see what Chabad has to say about some of that language. All right. And the parasha, which means chapter, is called Ki Tisa. And so let's see what some of these key sentences are. Let's look at sentence 3. To a land. God is saying, I'm not going to go with you. He's still very upset. And he's saying, I will send an angel before you and drive out all these other tribes. And then line 3 is, El Eretz Zavat Chalav, toward a country that flows with milk, Udvash, Zavat Chalav Udvash. Just listen to how beautiful the sound is. Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. It's got a rhythm, it's got poetry, it's got internal, it's called assonance when the vowels align. Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, a land flowing with milk and honey. And the land of Israel is called that again and again in the future. Ki lo a'aseh bikirbecha, because I will not, no, lo e'ele bikirbecha, I won't go up in, karov is close. So God is saying, I won't go up, and going to the land of Israel is always going up, even to this day, it's going up. Bikirbecha, in the nearness of you. Ki im kshe oref, because kshe oref, a stiff-necked people, a hard-necked people. Ota, they are. Pen achelcha badarich, lest I, achelcha, this is really like devour you in the way, lest I destroy you in the way. And again, I'll just keep repeating, he can't align with them while they're in a state of rage and narcissism and unholiness. Let's look at line 6. So the children of Israel laid their good raiment from them after Moses came down from the Mount Horeb. Then Moses took his tabernacle. Let's see. So V'yitnatzlu b'nei Israel, and they divested themselves, the children of Israel, et Ediam Maher Chorev, of their finery, Mehar Horeb, from the Mount of Horeb. Umoshe Yikach, and Moses took et ha'ohel, the tent, v'natalo, and pitched it for himself, michutz lemachane, outside the camp. Harchak mean hamachane, some distance, a distance from the camp. Vikara lo ohel, and he called him the tent, ohel moed, the tent of meeting. V'haya kol mevakesh Adonai, and it was that anyone mevakesh, my heart, anyone, it's translated as seeking the Lord, but it's not seeking the Lord. It's so beautiful. Kol mevakesh Adonai, everyone who asks for God. Like, it's mevakesh. If someone phones someone on a phone to this day, the person answering will say, "Et miata mevakesh." Whom are you asking for? Whom are you requesting? And so this is literally everyone who requests God. Yetzeh will go out el ohel, to the tent moed of meeting, asher michutz lamachane, which is outside of the camp. Like, really get this. Have you been taught this? I haven't. Anyone who just wants to request a meeting with God can just go out to the tent of meeting right outside the camp and go meet with God. All right. So I think that that's important. And let's go to line 11. What does it say? And then this is about when Moshe is meeting with God in the tent, and there's a pillar of cloud at the entrance to the tent, like, do not disturb. What would happen? V'diber Adonai el Moshe, panim el panim, and spoke God to Moshe, panim el panim. You know this word panim, it means face. It's plural, actually. Faces is a face. And this is face to face, or face toward face. So God has a face. Panim el panim, ka'asher yedaber ish el re'ehu, when as ke'asher, as yedaber ish el re'ehu, as a man would speak to his companion. Veshav el hamachane, and he would return to the camp. U me sharto Yehoshua, and his attendant, or servant, really, someone who does service, Joshua, ben Nun, the son of Nun, Na'ar lo Yamish, a lad, a youth, would not leave mitoch ohel, from the inside of the tent. And gosh, I just want to read one more paragraph because it's so beautiful. Vayomer, and said Moshe el Adonai, Re'eh ata. Moshe said to God, Re'eh, you know this word, lirot, to see. See, you, Omer Elai, you say to me, Ha'al et ha'am hazeh, bring this people up, right, to the Holy Land. Ve'ata lo, and still, and now you haven't, hodatani, let me know, et asher tishlach imi, who you are sending with me. Ve'ata amarta, and you said, yedaticha b'shem, I have known you by name. V'gam matzata chen beinai, and also you have found, and chen is this beautiful word which means like charm or adorableness. You have found adorableness in my eyes, meaning I really like you. So literally, how intimate is that paragraph, where literally Moses is saying to God, you told me you wanted me to bring this people up to the land of Israel, but you haven't told me who you're going to send with me. And yet, like, you're withholding this information, though you've said, I have known you by name and I love you, basically. And let's see, does it say, your way or your ways. Ve'ata, and now imna matzati chen be'enecha. If imna is like if please, right? Matzati, I found favor in your eyes. Hodieni, let me know na, please, et dachecha, your way, your ways. Ve'edacha, ve'adacha, and I will know you, lema'an imtzechen, for the sake of finding favor in your eyes. Ur'e ki imcha hagoy hazeh, and see that Amcha hagoy hazeh, your nation, your people are this nation, and see that your people are this nation. So he is beseeching this being. So it is, let me know your ways, but it's not, show me now thy ways. It's not. It's, which is the Revised Standard Version. It's, let me know your ways. Let me know how to go with you. Let me know how to not upset you. Let me know how to be with you, so that I may know you and see this is your people. I just want to say, people have lots of anti-Semitic thoughts about the word goyim, but here it is, hagoy hazeh, this nation. Goy means nation. So no one should get upset when someone talks about goyim, because it's not Christians, it's not non-Jews. Usually it means nations. All right. And God says, Vayomer panai yelechu, and he said, my presence, my face really will go with you. Vehanichti lach, and I will, lanuach is to rest, and I will give you rest. I will rest you. And then, the dialogue is so beautiful. And Moses said, Vayomer elav, and said to him, Moses, im ein panecha holchim, if your face doesn't go with us, al te'alenu mize, don't even bring us up from here. And then let's see whether it's preeminence or not. Ubame yoda, and in what will they know? Efo, how will it be known? Ki matzati chen beinecha, that I found favor in your eyes. Ani ve'amcha, ani ve'amecha, I and your people, your nation. Hello, hello is like, after all, belech techa, in your going, imanu, with us, ve'niflinu, ani ve'amcha, then niflinu, nafel, ani ve'amcha, then I and your people will be distinguished. This says, michol ha'am, from every people, asher al pnei ha'adama, that are on the face of the earth, or the dirt, really. And remember that panim is echoed here on the face of the earth, and adama, you recognize that word, it contains Adam, Adam. Adam and earth have the same root. And so let's just zip down to, again, I said, I beseech you, show me your glory, line 18. So Vayomer, and he said, Hareini na, show me now, et kvodecha, show me now your honor, really. And kavod also is from the same root, I believe, kaved, which is like weightiness. And 19, Vayomer, and God said, Ani avir, I will pass by, same root as the angel of death passing over the doors of the Egyptians and killing their firstborn. Ani avir, I will pass over kol tuvi, all of my goodness. That's so sweet. Al panecha, in front of your face. Vekarati b'shem Adonai, and I will call in the name of God, lefanecha, in front of you. Ve'chanoti et asher achon, and I will kind of adore, chen, right? Chanoti et asher achon, I will adore or love or cherish whoever I will cherish. Ve'rachamti et asher achem, and I will, rachamim are compassion, mercy, and I will feel compassion for those for whom I feel compassion. And let's see what he says next. Vayomer, and he said, Lo tuchal lirot et panai, you won't be able to see my face, ki lo yirani ha'adam v'chai. And boy, is this different than it's translated. Ki lo ra'ani, because no one has seen ha'adam, man, me, and lives, v'chai, and lives. It's not you won't see me and survive. It's not that. And it's translated, mistranslated, but he said, you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. It doesn't say that. It's really God saying, you won't see my face because man does not see me and lives. He's describing a challenge that he has as God in getting close to humans, that humans tend to die when they see him. Now, maybe God should fix that. Arguably, if God can do anything, God can fix that. He hasn't fixed it yet in the story. And he's just, that's why I keep saying God's figuring out how to be with humans. Humans are figuring out how to be with God. And so God's like improvising. Vayomer, and he said, Adonai, God, hine makom iti, here is a place with me. Ve nitzavta, and you shall stand al hatzor, on the rock. And you hear the echo, this is my rock, right? Peter in the New Testament. Vehaya be'avor, and it was kavodi, when my glory, my honor passes by, ve'samticha, and I will place you benikrat hatzur, in a cleft of the rock, ve'sakati, and I'll kapi with alecha ad avri. This is honestly so intimate. It makes me want to cry. And I will cover with my palm, with the palm of my hand, alecha, on you, ad avri, until I have passed by, until I cross over. Ve hasarti et kapi, and I will remove, right? Not then I will take away my hand, and I will remove the palm of my hand. Veraita et acharai, and you'll see after me, almost. The acharon is last, the last of me, the afterness of me. U panai lo yiru, and my face will not be seen. That's it. So that is the reading, and let's see where we're at. I mean, I don't know about you, but I just find the whole thing incredibly moving. God is so like opposite land, right? God is trying to figure out how to be closer and closer and closer to people who keep messing up. And the translations present him as so arbitrary, so punitive, so wanting distance, so irrational, so scary. Let's have some commentary. Oh dear, it's already been an hour, but let's have a few questions or comments. King Richard says, great work. Thank you. Lots of people say hi. Good evening from Tennessee, Canada. And Ann Vance said, he created us, so it stands to reason. For myself, God wants this relationship with us. God has destroyed humans before in the time of Noah. Yeah, true. I mean, we have to face it, right? He wants this relationship with us, but sometimes humans mess up so badly. There's no guarantee that, we get to live on with him, right? We're his creations in this. And there's some things that just gross God out too much. I mean, it's clear that there's like everyone's got their line, right? And never married dating. Am I going to talk about why people are not getting married? Not in this podcast. It's a whole other podcast, no doubt. And I don't really know. I can only conjecture. Okay. Christopher Mark Jones says, we need to deal with reality these days, actuality. Yes, get a few ideas from old texts, but bring most energy to having them fit the actuality of human life being lived today, not vice versa. Fair enough. And, I agree. And I'm trying to, that's kind of why I wanted to do this project of reading through the Geneva Bible, because I think these texts are super germane to today, but not necessarily, not criticizing any one religion, but not necessarily in my view, grossly mistranslated form that later religions, including mine, right? If you don't read Hebrew, the variations or the versions of this story that I was taught as a conservative Jew in English really don't resemble the original, and the same is true for many translations. So I hope you're all finding relevance in your lives in this text. I certainly am as we go through. Let's see. How do we turn this around? I think you're probably talking about my comments about the political situation. Exodus. Someone's quoting, Tom F. is quoting from Exodus. Oh, interesting. Sandy Hardy says, there is a reason you are reading this today. The sheep and goats are being separated. Stay under his wing. Well, I do definitely feel like the sheep and goats are being separated right now. You can't stand in the middle. You have to choose a side. So I would agree with you. It would be, Tom F. said, it would be much better to read this verse thus, quote, and the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed Jehovah, that is, showed Moses fully what was implied in this august name. And someone named Clark said that. I don't know. I think it's pretty important that he didn't say what the name was. To me, that's kind of more profound. But Judaism has a very ancient and complicated tradition about the sacredness of God's name. Like you're not even supposed to write out God, G-O-D, or Yahweh, spell it out. You're supposed to like blank out some letters because it's so sacred and so holy. I don't fully understand that tradition, but it, to me, as a literary critic, it's more powerful that God says, I'll share my name with you, and then he doesn't. That's like the story continues, right? Let's see. I'm not a theologian. I'm a literary critic. That is true, says Sandy Hardy, and it is absolutely true. I'm not a theologian. And Tom F. has a lot of explanations of various words like emet, which is truth, chesed, the bountiful being, very true. And Hupo said, wish I joined earlier. Well, you can go to Naomi Wolf Reads the Geneva Bible on Substack, and they will all be there in the timelessness of the internet. And you can watch them one by one whenever you like, or listen to them. Let's see. Sadie Hardy says, thank you so much. This is really very valuable for those of us who studied the Bible for decades. Well, I'm glad to hear it. We are peculiar people, says Sandy Hardy. Very true. Lots and lots of comments. I don't want to keep everyone up late. So let's conclude with a few more. Tom F. says, may his face shine upon you also. Yes, I think we can all agree that that is a really good wish. Now we know he has a face and that it can shine on us, right? Reza Zia says, it's so beautiful. I agree. It's so beautiful. It really almost makes me want to cry. Krista Hope says, thank you for talking about the Bible, Naomi. This is so important. I am definitely finding relevance. I'm so glad. Lori Secker says, I really love that you're doing this. Thank you, Lori. And Sally Nagi says, very important and beautiful work against evil. Every minute you read, I believe. Thank you. Prayer emoji. Well, let's end there. Lots of people appreciating, and I appreciate all of you. This is like, I keep thinking it can't get better than this, right? Or more profound or more compelling. But I am finding, I was tired and pretty depressed today because of news events and the horribleness of the world and the power of evil. But reading this chapter with you has been very strengthening to me. So I want to thank you for joining me. They're almost more than 2,800 people watching live, and we'll reach more as this goes through the internet. And I just want to thank you. It's a beautiful journey, and I'm learning so much, and I'm getting so much out of it. And I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for you, or I wouldn't be incentivized to do it without you. So thank you, I will say, I hope you have a blessed night, because I'm getting more comfortable talking like that. And I'll see you tomorrow. And if you can, get the 1560 Geneva Bible, not the 1599 one. And also, if you can't afford it, because times are tough, if you go to your local library, they have to order the books that you ask them to order by law. Most cities and municipalities have that proviso. So go ahead and ask them to order the 1560 Geneva Bible, and go ahead and use it. All right, take care, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.